Hey everybody, welcome to the channel, True Crime Stories. If you're new to the channel, please hit that like button and subscribe so you can hear more. Thanks for stopping by. This is the story of a woman in England when 25-year-old architect Joanna Yeats went missing on December 17th, 2010. Joanna was born in 1985 in Ampfield, Hampshire. The perfect daughter, she had just moved in with her boyfriend, Greg Reardon, into a beautiful ground floor flat in the upmarket area of Clifton in Bristol. She had just graduated with a diploma in landscape architecture. She had an amazing future ahead of her. Christmas happened to be her favorite time of year. Living above Joanna and Greg was their landlord, Chris Jeffries. Now, he was described as an eccentric pillar of society. He was a 65-year-old retired English teacher, and he was also a member of a local neighborhood watch group. It was alleged that Jeffrey had seen 3 people, including Joanna, leaving the flat that night. He would go on to play a key part in the hunt for the killer. Joanna and Greg's next-door neighbor was a man named Vincent Tabak. He was a 33-year-old Dutch national. He was described as a loner and an introvert. He had grown up in Holland, and after he got his master's degree and a PhD in engineering, he moved to England. He worked in nearby Bath and lived with his girlfriend. The events of the night of December 17th, 2010 would change his life forever. At around 8 p.m., 25-year-old Joanna leaves the Bristol Ram pub in Park Street and walks 20 minutes to her home. Her boyfriend, Greg Reardon, returns home from a weekend away. He discovers Joanna wasn't there. After a while looking for her, this was December 19th. Now, this would have been 2 days later. He calls the police. On December the 21st, police search the area. Joanna's parents make an emotional appeal for her return. December the 23rd, police believe a missing pizza may hold a vital clue to her disappearance. Now, Christmas Day, December the 25th, at around 9 a.m., a local couple walking their dog discover a woman's body lying in a roadside ditch off of Longwood Lane. Police believe the woman to be Joanna. However, due to the frozen body, the post-mortem exam will take a little bit longer to complete. On December the 27th, Joanna's family visits the location where her body was found. Police reveal that Joanna was strangled. A murder investigation is launched, and on December the 30th, police arrest Chris Jeffries at his flat on suspicion of murdering Joanna. Now, his car was taken in, I guess, as evidence, and on December the 31st, detectives are granted more time to question him. Joanna's family and her boyfriend issue a statement paying tribute to her and say that she was stolen from them. They remain convinced that the police will catch her killer. On January the 4th, police launch a Facebook campaign to find the killer. Now, if this Chris Jeffries was arrested and they're still saying we're searching for her killer, do they not think, was he released. On January the 5th, detectives issue a statement. Now, this is somewhat strange for police to release this information to the public, but they release a statement saying that her body was missing one gray sock. January the 18th, the final steps of Joanna Yeats are reconstructed. A 32-year-old man is arrested on suspicion of murder. Police are granted extra time to question this man, and they charge Vincent Tayback. Now, keep in mind, they had already arrested Chris Jeffries on suspicion, so now they turn around and arrest the other next-door neighbor, Vincent Tayback. So Vincent Tayback is arrested. On January the 28th, Joanna's body is released to her family. On January 31st, Tayback appears at the court via video link. He is remanded in custody until May 11th. The funeral of Joanna Yeats takes place in St. Mark's Church. And on March the 4th, Mr. Jeffries is released from police bail without any charges. Tayback admits the manslaughter, but denies it was murder. The trial of Vincent Tayback gets underway in October of that year. Now, the arrest. DNA doesn't lie. 2 days after the Crime Watch appeal was filmed, now this was like a documentary TV show where they come in and talk to the family and they, reenact the case. 2 days after the Crime Watch appeal was filmed, the police got a breakthrough. They had become increasingly suspicious as to why Vincent Tayback had been feeding them misinformation. Tayback had told police that on the night of Joanne's disappearance, Jeffrey's car had been moved, but this was a lie. But the information had prompted them to arrest Chris Jeffries. On January 20th, 32-year-old Tayback was also arrested. During the arrest, he refused to cooperate. When police would ask him questions, he would say no comment, however, the evidence against him was mounting. He couldn't argue with DNA proof that linked him to Joanna's death. Now, Tayback spoke to the chaplain, Peter Brotherton. He believed that this chat to be confidential between himself and the priest, almost like a confession. And he made the mistake of revealing that he had killed Joanna. Tayback entered a plea of manslaughter, but denied that it was murder. The prosecution rejected this and charged him with murder. They were baffled because important items such as her coat, boots, keys, purse, and phone had all been found inside the apartment or the flat. Forensics also revealed that there was no sign of a struggle or forced entry. This led the police to believe that the killer was known to Joanna. They again appealed to anyone to come forward with any information. Landlord Chris Jeffries reported to have told police that he saw 3 people, including Joanna, leaving that night. Now, he was the first one to be arrested on suspicion. The British press believed that he was the killer. Public opinion is, the people out here in the public are seeing this in the news, as is so often the case. And it's trial by the public. They believe him to be guilty because the news media is releasing while his car was taken and searched. And it would take until March the 4th before police released him of any charges. Finally, on January the 5th, the police released the news that they were trying to locate a gray sock. They still believe that the sock and the pizza held vital clues. Already reaching out to the public using Facebook and YouTube, the police turned to BBC's Crime Watch. A month since her death, Joanna's final footsteps were being retraced. According to police officers, he was calm, unlike his girlfriend, who seemed to be very concerned. He was initially ruled out as a suspect and had been allowed to spend New Year's celebrating in Holland. During that time, his girlfriend had contacted police with information about Jeffries. The police had flown out to Holland to get the statement from the couple, but there were so many inconsistencies in their version of events. Tayback told the jury that he had walked past Joanna's kitchen window and she was there and she had invited him inside. He says that he went inside and they chatted. Now, he tells police that she came on to him, was flirting with him, and that he found her attractive, and that he thought she was leading him on, so he went to give her a kiss. But she pushed him away and let out a scream. Now, at this point, he puts his hands around her neck to stop her from screaming, and he says that within a few seconds she was dead. So his version is this was just a reaction killing. He went to kiss her. He misread the situation. He went to lean in to give her a kiss. She was startled. She pushed him away and screamed. And he just kind of freaked out, grabbed her throat and started strangling her, trying to get her to quit screaming. Police believe it was that he went into her apartment with the intentions of possibly raping her and killing her. The pathologist, Dr. Delaney, revealed that Joanna suffered 43 injuries during the struggle that ended her life. He showed photographs to the jury of the red bruise marks on her neck and chin, and she had blood underneath her nose. He made the jury aware that these injuries were sustained while she was still alive. He went on to say that Tayback would have seen her struggling to breathe. He also pointed out that Tayback was a foot taller than Joanna, and he could easily have taken his hands away from her throat. If he chose not to, which means that she endured a slow and painful death. The jury was also told that Tayback panicked, and instead of calling 911, he calmly turned off the oven and took out the pizza. He carried Joanna's body next door to his apartment or flat and stored it in a bicycle cover. He then placed her body in the boot of his car and took a trip. Now, fibers on the body were discovered that he had covered Joanna in his own black coat. The jury, 6 men and 6 women, were horrified to hear that after the killing he had texted his girlfriend to tell her how much he missed her and how bored he was without her. The jury was also told that whenever Tayback was alone, he would frantically search online about developments in the murder case. He searched times when the trash would be collected, and this was probably what led the police to wonder why he was so interested in what time the trash was being collected. Forensic scientists explained that the presence of blood on the top of the wall near where the body had been found in Longwood Lane indicated that Tayback had tried to lift Joanna's body over the wall but failed to do so. So instead he had placed her body in a fetal position in the snow and covered it up with leaves. He returned home and he disposed of the pizza and the sock. The police would never find what they first believed to be vital clues. He also divulged that he had used his landlord as a scapegoat and tried to frame him for the murder. He fed the police a string of lies to hide his own guilt. In court, Tayback used the opportunity to apologize for putting Joanna's family through this hell. The jury failed to reach a unanimous verdict and instead came to a majority decision of 10-2. So this Vincent Taybeck, once the police started investigating him, and some of this stuff wasn't even heard by the jury during the trial, but it was said that once they started investigating him, he was described as a very dangerous, evil, wicked individual. In a statement from her parents that her parents read out loud, they said it is a regret that capital punishment was not an option. Now this man is Vincent Taybeck. During the trial, the prosecution claimed that Taybeck was motivated by sex when he attacked her in her home on December 17th. They suggested that he had been spying on her and claimed that an important feature of the case was that when her body was found, her top had been pulled above her bra and part of one breast had been exposed. His DNA was found on her chest. Now, once they started researching this man, they found on images on his computer, and the jury didn't even hear this part, which is very strange to me, and that they had looked through his computers and they found hardcore pornography featuring bondage and strangulation, and he had visited many pornographic websites, including the day that he killed her. He would navigate between reports about her disappearance and pornography. So, like I said earlier, they said that anytime that he was alone and on his computer, he was searching stuff about this murder. What had the police found, and just, trying to keep up with it. But he was also going and visiting these pornographic websites that featured women being bound and gagged and strangled, and they found one image on his computer of a woman who was being strangled, and she was wearing a pink tank top that had been pulled up above her bra and one breast was exposed. And they said that they believed that he had posed her body in that manner to imitate this pornographic image. And he possibly, maybe even, was taking photos of her as well. Now, the woman in the picture on the computer, this image, was a blonde woman, and they said it was strange that she resembled this murder victim. They said that he had also been searching escort agencies, that he had visited Los Angeles shortly before this attack, and that he had used the services of sex workers at the hotel that he was staying in under a false name. The judge, Mr. Justice Field, ruled that the value of the evidence explained why he acted the way that he did. I guess what they mean is that he was, drawn to these pornographic images of women being bound and strangled, and this is something that he played out with the murder of this Joanna Yeats. Now, the prosecution argued that the jury should be told about this evidence, about these images and about these escorts, and but the jury did not hear this evidence. The judge disagreed with that. I guess they were just saying that it was some type of circumstantial evidence, that he just happened to like to watch videos and look at pornographic pictures of women being strangled, and then her body, this murder victim's body, this Joanna, was found in a similar way. But the judge didn't believe the jury needed to hear about that. But in the end, they ended up sentencing him to life anyway. And the judge told Tayback, "In my view, you are very dangerous. In my opinion, you are thoroughly deceitful and manipulative. When you entered her flat on the evening of December 17, your plan was to murder her. You proceeded to strangle her with intention, a dreadful evil act committed against a vulnerable, unsuspecting young woman in her own home. This ended her life that she was entitled to have a life of happiness and fulfillment. Speaking outside the family's home, her parents said, "We are not elated. We always knew that he was guilty. Whatever the jury decided, we are relieved that it was a murder verdict because we do not know how we would have reacted had they come back with manslaughter. After Joe died, we tried our best to put our lives back together. The trial was something we had to go through, and we have to get our life back." They found images on his computer of child pornography. This was during the searches of his computer, and he was once, even after he was convicted of her murder and put in jail, he was convicted and charged with that crime as well, and given an additional 10 months for that crime. Now, Tabak was represented by Paul Cook. He declined to request a bail hearing, and Tabak was moved to a different jail because of fears of his safety. He was placed under suicide watch, and his family and friends in the Netherlands started to raise funds for his defense. He maintained he was not responsible for her death, claiming that DNA evidence linked him to the crime had been fabricated by the police. And however, on February the 8th, he told the prison chaplain that he had killed her and he did intend to plead guilty. However, after that, he claimed that, he didn't kill her, that was a lie, and that they were setting him up. Now, in the months leading up to Yeats's death, Tabak had used his computer to research escort agencies during business trips in both England, the United Kingdom, and the United States. He had contacted several sex workers by phone, and he was viewing violent internet pornography depicting women being controlled by men, showing images of them being held by their throats and choked. They found images of a woman who bore a striking resemblance to Joanna Yeats. In one scene, she was shown pulling up a pink top to expose her bra and her breasts. And when Yeats was discovered, she was wearing a similar, I already talked about that. So they believe that he had posed her in that manner to emulate this image. After the trial emerged, it was found that he had pornographic images of children on his laptop. The Crown Prosecution Service announced that he would be prosecuted for these images, and on March the 2nd, 2015, he pleaded guilty to possessing more than 100 pornographic images of children. He was given an additional 10 months in prison. Vincent Tabak is currently serving his sentence in Winchester. It was reported that he was moved there from maximum security Wakefield in 2022. The newspaper reported that Tabak was moved after a secret bid to be transferred to serve his sentence in the Netherlands. He was sentenced to life in prison with a minimum of 20 years. As of right now, he still sits in prison, and 20 years from 2012. So I'll keep watching to see if I hear of any updates on his case. Thanks for watching.